Well, if this doesn't sum up the day right here, both players starting off with Jirachi.
No, I think this is just a quad Jirachi mirror. It's what it's starting to feel like at the moment. But
Slap fight. Who's going to slap the most?
they do run metal energy.
Oh,
so
yeah, they can.
You never know what can happen. But as we've been talking about with Malamar for quite a while, there's sort of a script that you stick to, and that is put down lots of Inkay to start with, and then, possibly attack with Giratina if you can. Seems to be the advice that I received from Brent yesterday about this mirror match and how it was a very intense skill mirror match. So we'll have to see who can draw better, but also who has the better skill.
Indeed. Yeah, looking at the deck list, they're fairly similar. I do see one difference that really stands out to me, and that is one Registeel in Joey's deck from that Celestial Storm expansion. It's got, I believe, the Exoskeleton ability, and it's got a resistance to Psychic type, so it's actually pretty resilient against opposing Giratina. So that could be kind of a mirror breaker where, you're typically trading Giratina back and forth, but Registeel can kind of throw a wrench in things and be very difficult to knock out.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because I think Registeel, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's 60 damage plus 60 more if the opponent has an ability.
Yeah.
So that's not quite a knockout on a Giratina, but it is a knockout on Giratina if you combine it with something like Distortion Door, which is your own Giratina's ability. So that could set up some interesting plays where multiple Pokemon are knocked out in one turn that can kind of swing the matchup that way, instead of just having to go into Giratina facing off against Giratina as most people expect. But we see Joey here, he's put down a Ditto, he's put down an Inkay, and he's just using that Stellar Wish ability to select a trainer card from the top 5. Looks like there's a few he can choose from as well.
Yeah, he's got Ultra Ball he can pick from, all sorts of stuff. And Registeel can simply, Guzma out a Malamar and knock it out. It's got plenty of options. It's a strange tech card I would never have expected to see in this kind of a deck, but hey, sometimes if you can figure out the metagame, you can find some weird cards that are typically not very good, but have very specific and narrow uses that can really swing a matchup. It reminds me of that when that Chimecho came out of nowhere with the Bell of Silence and really ruined a lot of the mirror matches and set up your match against the Zoroark Lycanroc deck. Just weird cards sometimes that look completely unplayable come out of nowhere in specific metagames, and you're just like, oh yeah, I win this matchup now because of this weird common that nobody else has ever played.
Chimecho is a card that I actually love so much. I think it's such a great card, but something we haven't seen at all this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of fulfills the slot that Jirachi fills. So if you have Jirachi, you can't really afford to have a bench space with Chimecho on it. I think that's one reason among many that people haven't played Chimecho this weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, it's also not very good against Zapdos.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the other reasons.
So it looks like Joey got a decent start. He got an Inkay down and the Ditto Prism Star, which can represent a second Malamar. So about as good of a start as you can hope for. He did not get any energy in his discard pile or an energy attachment on a Giratina or anything like that, but still in a decent spot. But Brent starting off extremely well. Going to go ahead, Mysterious Treasure, discarding a Psychic Energy, and actually go right for the Ultra Necrozma GX.
Yeah, very interesting play. You'd think in this matchup you'd want to be avoiding putting down GX Pokemon just so your opponent can't take 2 prizes when you can only take 1. But clearly Brent has a plan. He has a strategy going that we are not yet privy to, but will be. And I'm sure he has further follow-up to find Inkays and other Pokemon in that sense.
I'm going to guess it involves Photon Geyser. That's his plan.
It's a pretty good attack.
Yeah.
But has to Viridian Forest away a Metal Energy, which is really difficult when the deck runs so few of them.
Yeah, he actually just discards it with Viridian Forest so he can Lily for additional cards. Doesn't even search for another energy card, and looks like he's gotten at least 1 Ultra Ball, so he'll be able to get 1 Inkay down, but would have loved to get 2 or maybe 3 down.
Yeah, definitely not the best start. It's not typically what Malamar's looking for. They typically don't play the Professor Elms. They do want to try to draw into it with a plethora of Nest Balls and Ultra Balls, Lily as well, just to draw cards. But sadly, only finds 1.
Yeah, although fortunately he did go for the Ultra Necrozma straight away, so even if he gets 0 Malamar on the next turn, he can simply attach to Ultra Necrozma and then play something like a Skateboard or Guzma and attack with that Photon Geyser. And thanks to the Beast Energy, It can also attack for 130 damage, so knocks out basically anything in a Malamar deck outside of the GXs.
Yeah, does it knock out the Registeel?
Just the Registeel,
Oh,
yeah.
the Registeel lives, yes. Registeel.
Everything in a typical Malamar
He knew
deck.
it. Joey knew it. All right, so Jirachi wakes up. That's very important.
Yes. And the original Jirachi from the EX Deoxys set, that was actually very important. I think Joey asking if he can play down Viridian Forest. The answer is no, you cannot play a stadium card of the same name.
We're already playing in Viridian Forest.
Yeah.
Oh, he's discarding the
Okay.
forest.
That
Okay.
is a legal play, yes. But yeah, the original one, you couldn't use the Poke Power if Jirachi was asleep.
Ah.
So waking up was actually a very, very big deal. But
This is a strict upgrade.
yeah, although the original could look at the top 5 and pick any card, not just the trainer card. So
Strict downgrade. Terrible. So here we go.
I still think this card's okay.
I think most of the field here agrees with you.
Yeah.
Ultra Balling
Oh,
away
no.
that Registeel. Sorry, the
What's he
Registeel
doing?
will not feature unless we see a Rescue Stretcher coming out to put that Pokemon into play. Brent's going to give it a read.
Yep.
Not a conventional sort of card you'll see, but you know, Joey's actually known for these sort of unconventional decks and unconventional deck lists, and they've worked really well for him in the past. So you know, why change that strategy now?
Sure. It's a bit messy here, but we do see the Ultra Ball for Giratina and then another Ultra Ball discarding the Giratina plus another card. We do see Malamar come out. And we saw Joey go to discard his Dawnwings Necrozma GX, but actually pulled back. It's a little awkward because, I mean, you showed your opponent you had it, and then you took it back. You're like, oh, maybe I don't want to Ultra Ball that. So it'll always be in the back of Brent's mind that, oh, he does play that card, and it's not prized.
Yeah, it is a really quite important card in this matchup as well because it can kind of swing the tempo back into your favor. Now, you might think 180 damage doesn't actually knock out an Ultra Necrozma, but when you have access to that Distortion Door ability and you can put 1 damage counter on Ultra Necrozma and set it up for that knockout with 180 with the GX move, and also make yourself immune to sort of damage and effects the next turn, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, you can also use Beast Energy to get the extra 30 damage. It's weird to think about, but Dawnwings Necrozma GX is an Ultra Beast.
It is an Ultra Beast. And here we see a Mysterious Treasure. Probably wants to find a couple more Inkay. Probably start attacking this turn and try to be the first person to take the first prize.
It does get the second Malamar into play, so double Psychic Recharge is an option. We do see Giratina coming out with the Distortion Door. I'm not sure if there's actually enough Psychic Energy in his discard pile to pull off an attack this turn, though.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Ultra Balls, but not a lot of energy being sort of thrown away. Remembering, with that Viridian Forest, you can always find energy whenever you need to, but you have to have those in the discard pile if you want a Psychic Recharge.
Looks like another Inkay comes down, and it would be nice for Joey to get an attack off here. He could take the first knockout, take the lead in this game, but looks like that's not going to be the case here. He's already used Stellar Wish with Jirachi, so that won't be an option anymore. Looks like just the one Psychic Energy, and that's going to be the end of his turn.
Always got to follow the rules, flip to see if you're awake. And so here we see Stellar Wish from Brent, and really it's just a case of just Stellar Wishing until you're ready to attack. I think that's really what it's come down to in this case. Brent having a look there.
It's funny because that sleep flip is extra irrelevant because like 99% of the time you just retreat with a skateboard anyway. It doesn't matter if it's asleep.
But Kyle, that 1% of the time that you need to retreat with the energy, it's super relevant. We see that Brent also plays Switch as well, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I just think you could slap. I mean, can't do that when you're asleep.
You're right. Next level plays. Should be thinking ahead. So Brent here, probably going to try to get some Malamars into play. Maybe look for his own Giratina, or is he committed to using this Ultra Necrozma GX?
Looks like he is just going to go with Ultra Necrozma, saying, you know what, I don't care if it gives up 2 prize cards. I mean, if the opponent is committed to just using Giratina, it is still a 2-for-2 trade. You'll knock out 2 Giratina for your 1 Ultra Necrozma GX, so 2 prize cards apiece. So it's not the worst trade-off, and it does use very few resources early on in the game. You only have to discard 1 Psychic Energy, so it's easy to set up. It's not a bad route to go down.
And you have to sort of think about Giratina's attack as well, that Shadow Impact. It puts 4 damage counters on their side of the field. And that can kind of set up plays for yourself, actually, with the Sky Scorching Light later in the game. They're sort of putting damage counters down for you. So if they're putting enough down in the right places, you can take multiple prizes in one turn. So Giratina is sometimes not the most optimal attacker, but certainly it does seem like it in this case, just because you don't want to be giving up those 2 prizes.
So Joey here has some decisions to make. Looks like he's actually going to... he was going to discard his Lily with Viridian Forest, but decides to discard his Viridian Forest to Viridian Forest instead.
I think we've seen that play before.
Yeah. Both players, that's the only stadium card they're playing, so it's pretty much a worthless card once one of them is out there. You might as well discard them when you can.
Yeah.
Nobody plays Field Blower either, so once we're in Viridian Forest, we stay there.
It's kind of confusing because it's a field of squids, but sort of everything makes sense in Pokemon.
Yeah. We do have 3 Malamar in play now for Joey. He does have a switch in his hand, and he, of course, drew another Viridian Forest.
So what this means, having 3 Malamar in play, means that he can reliably just charge up a Giratina every single turn, as long as he can retreat the Pokemon that he sends into the active position. So all he needs is an escape board on that Inkay, and we can just continuously cycle Giratinas, but I think I didn't see any energy in his discard pile.
You are correct. He's got all the Malamar, but none of the energy in the discard pile. So he's already used Viridian Forest, so he cannot do it again and discard a Psychic Energy from his hand. So he just has to pass, and that's a big, big missed opportunity. Letting your opponent get up 2 prize cards before you even attack, that's a rough spot to be in.
Yeah, very awkward start, especially in this kind of matchup where we're expecting sort of 1 for 1 for 1 for 1 until someone can pull ahead. And this just might be Brent pulling ahead right here if Joey can't recover. Now, we do know he always has that Dawnwings Necrozma GX as an option, which can actually use Invasion, put itself into the active spot, make itself immune, and you have to be behind on prizes to be able to use that GX attack. Yeah. So that's always an option that Brent has to be aware of, and Joey, also has to be aware of and use at the right time. But if he doesn't have energy for it, makes it a little bit awkward.
Oops, looks like Brent is going to discard his own Viridian Forest to get a Psychic Energy, so that seems to be the only target so far for discarding a card with Viridian Forest. Just a single energy, Photon Geyser, knockout on a Malamar. And now Brent is down to 4 prize cards. And without any Psychic Energy in his discard pile, Joey is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and this sort of Malamar versus Malamar matchups, especially when it was the older variant with the Necrozma GX, it really was just a prize race, and who had the tempo is really what it came down to. And it kind of feels like Brent, even though it's only 2 prize cards, it's pulled quite far ahead in this matchup. Usually, when it's 1 prize either side, you're feeling okay. You can always come back from that. But when it's 2, it's quite awkward. Really, sort of, Joey's going to have to work hard to really bring himself back into this match, I'd say.
Sure seems like it. At some point, he's probably going to have to go with that Dawnwings Necrozma GX and try to make a comeback, but it's not looking good. Even if he can pull off an attack with Giratina here, it's a 2-hit knockout on this Ultra Necrozma GX, so it's just not a good spot to be in, and he lost one of his 3 Malamar.
It does have a Guzma, so he will be able to select a target on Brent's bench. You'd have to think...
It's got to be Malamar.
Yeah, with the energy.
There's some consideration for going for the one without the energy, because that's 1 less energy in your opponent's discard pile, 1 less to Psychic recharge with, but if we're at a point where Brent already has a bunch of energy in there, I guess you can take away the one that could potentially retreat later. And I've even seen Psychic Sphere used a couple times.
To effect?
Yeah, you knock out other Malamar.
Oh, excellent. That's the next level. Get rid of Giratina. Just go with Malamars. So Stellar Wish here is going to find Brent a mysterious treasure, and he's going to get rid of a Malamar. So that's very interesting. Hopefully he'll have rescue stretches to be able to get those back later in the game, because he is going to find an Inkay.
I mean, when you only have to discard 1 energy to Photon Geyser every turn, I guess you don't need many Malamar.
Yeah, I suspect Brent will, at some point, maybe have to knock out a GX, whether it's that Dawnwings Necrozma GX or not. So it's still beneficial for him to have Pokemon on the bench that can load up that Ultra Necrozma GX when it has to be loaded up.
See Brent doubling down on the Ultra Necrozma GX here. Benching a second one, attaching a Metal Energy, and, this is kind of smart because it does get around the Dawnwings Necrozma GX knockout. The other one with the Beast Energy has the 10 damage already, so it's in range for that Moon's Eclipse GX, but now this fresh one will not be knocked out, even if Joey is able to power up that Dawnwing's Necrozma.
We'll have to see if Joey decides to continue with the Giratina route here, if he's able to sort of chain those and continuously knock out those Malamars and prevent Brent from ever getting energy onto his Necrozma, because Malamar is the only way for the sort of Malamar, Psychic Recharge, sorry, but I guess it's irrelevant now.
Yeah, Joey looks at it and says, next game.
And so that's the power of Brent going just 2 prizes ahead. I know it sounds silly and it doesn't seem like that many, but just pulling ahead by 2 is sort of enough in this kind of matchup just to feel like, oh, I can't really come back from this.
Yeah, and that's great presence of mind from Joey. I mean, when you're playing a game, you always have the mindset of, I'm going to fight till the very end. I'm going to try to come back. I'm going to try to win. But when you're in a tournament setting, and especially in this specific situation where it's win or you're done, ties don't help you at all. A tie is effectively the same as a loss. You got to give yourself as much time as possible to actually win the match. And if you play another 5-10 minutes, you might rob yourself of an opportunity to win the match.
Yeah, knowing when to sort of move on is definitely an art form and something that the more skilled players, typically you see them be a bit more aware of when to do that and when maybe to continue fighting. Brent here, Joey will be able to select whether he goes first or second. And you'd have to say in a matchup where you need to get Malamars out, you're probably going to opt to go first.
Yeah, I agree. If you're somewhat new to the Pokemon TCG, or even if you're experienced and you ever think, maybe I should go second, you should probably ignore that thought, because going first currently is the way to go.
I think there was a time when going second was okay. A couple of years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
There was an argument for it when Night March was a deck.
Yeah.
But certainly
even
not
then,
now.
I've seen that backfire many times.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go second, I'll get the first attack, and then you play your first turn, you're like, I pass.
I wish I'd had time to set up. Yeah.
Or your opponent go first and play a Hex Maniac, and then you look at your hand and be like, oh, well, I'm not attacking. So guess I should have gone first.
Certainly in this format as well, with Marshadow from Shining Legends running around, you definitely want to get as many things down as you can before your opponent potentially plays that to disrupt you. But 2 mulligans from Brent there is going to give Joey a few more resources to work with in his opening hand, maybe help him find a few more of the Inkays that he's looking for. Dittos perhaps as well.
Well, fun fact, neither player plays Let Loose Marshadow.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that. They know their hand is safe.
Yeah. All right, so both players setting up for game number 2. Brent finally found a basic Pokemon, so we can begin the game. Do you see that Beast Energy in his prize cards, which could be relevant, but otherwise nothing too big?
Yeah, especially that Inkay as well. I know it doesn't seem big, but having 1 Inkay prize when your opponent is wanting to target them down is pretty relevant. It could be impactful.
Certainly could be, yeah.
If Joey's able to, knock out 3 consecutively and Brent can't find that 4th one.
All right, but we have game number 2 beginning here from the final round here of day 1 of the Oceania International Championships between Brent and Joey. One of these players could move on with a victory, lock themselves in for day number 2 at this International Championships, the second one of the season, and it's a big one. There's a lot of prizes on the line, lots of prize money. You get the title of International Champion, and you get a bunch of championship points, which can get you an invitation to the World Championships, as well as improve your standings to be in the top 16 of your region, or top whatever it is of your region. It changes from region to region, but yeah.
I mean, I would even say that yes, they're well.
Doesn't
their
play
hands
Marshadow.
are not safe. They've got a judge instead.
We do have the original, the judge, coming in.
It's actually a really great start from Joey. So he was able to get an energy in the discard pile, an Inkay down. Hopefully he'll get an attachment to that Ultra Necrozma GX. And I mean, he also has the ability to Stellar Wish as well, which will find him another piece, which could just be like a Nest Ball or an Ultra Ball to find another Inkay. So it's a great start. And, he's also hoping that he's completely disrupted Brent's hand. But I immediately see an Ultra Ball and a Viridian Forest in there. So that's something going on.
Yeah, it doesn't completely disrupt Brent. He'll get to do things, but it certainly hurts. Even when you recover from a judge or a let loose, having to do things like Ultra Ball for Tapu Lele GX to get a Lily really affects how the rest of the game plays out. So even though you don't lose the game immediately, long term, having that Tapu Lele GX on your bench can really affect how things go. We do see the Jirachi does wake up. We're going to be over to Brent's turn. He does seem to have a pretty decent hand for recovering. I mean, he is going to have to Ultra Ball for Tapu Lele, get the Lily and go from there, but I've seen much worse.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very different start. This is a very different way than the first game went.
Yeah.
Just because both players are playing multiple GXs. And those Tapu Leles are certainly not safe when you have Ultra Necrozma GX hanging around, able to do so much damage. I mean, it's been these decks have really flourished because there are those tag team Pokemon that have 240 HP. Tapu Lele is nothing. It has 170 HP. Ultra Necrozma GX can deal with that.
Just has to discard 2 Psychic Energy and then boom,
easy.
180 damage.
Doesn't need 6.
Yeah, it's funny how much of a liability Tapu Lele GX has become. It used to be, you have the 90 HP Jirachi EX for so long. That was an extreme liability. 2 prize card knockout, but you'd play it anyway because, I mean, it's great. Turns your Ultra Ball into a supporter card. And the damage output has increased so much on all these decks that now the 170 HP Tapu Lele is also not safe.
So Brent's got pretty good there. He's played the Ultra Ball to get a Tapu Lele and able to get a Lily off that. And it's just an ideal turn 1 supporter. It gets you 8 cards in your hand, and hopefully you're going to be able to find pieces that you need, such as those Inkays, or in this case, the Jirachi as well.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to grab Jirachi. It's a Pokemon you don't mind if it gets knocked out, and it can dig you into another Nest Ball, Mysterious Treasure, Ultra Ball, something like that, to get you another Inkay.
And I'd say that's certainly what Brent needs to find. If not an Ultra Necrozma with an energy attachment, he needs to find another Inkay to be able to, start his attacking going next turn.
And he does find the Nest Ball, so can get a second Inkay onto the bench. It's a bit awkward. He had to use his energy attachment to retreat into Jirachi, so he's going to end his turn with 0 energy cards in play. And it's going to make it difficult for him to pull off an attack next turn, but it's still possible.
I mean, with Malamar, if you need energy, anything's possible. If he's able to get 2 Malamars down and use both Psychic Recharge abilities onto an Ultra Necrozma GX and a Metal Energy onto there, that's, 180 damage?
Oh, yeah, that's all. That's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, it's no 200, but it's still pretty good. Joey, on his side, he will only get up 1 Malamar this turn, but I think that's also enough. I mean, if he can just find a Metal Energy to attach to that Ultra Necrozma, he can knock out the Jirachi if he so chooses. Kind of wonder, though, if you'd want to leave the Ultra Necrozma in the active spot, though. So it's a bit of it's an awkward dance, this matchup, I think, because it really comes down to who can take 2 prizes when and who's going to take 1 prize when. And then, of course, you've always got the threat of Sky Scorching Light hanging over everybody, so...
Yeah, we do see Nest Ball for Ditto Prism Star. It's a card that's played in a lot of decks, usually Zoroark decks these days, because it's so flexible. It can evolve into so many different Stage 1 Pokemon. I mean, we saw the deck that John Eng was playing earlier where it could evolve into Zoroark GX, Lycanroc GX, Alolan Ninetales GX, Weavile, Alolan Muck. It could turn into any of those. But in this deck, it is simply a 5th Inkay. It can evolve into Malamar.
So you might wonder why he nest-balled for Ditto when you could have nest-balled for Inkay, which has 20 more hit points than Ditto. But actually, Inkay can just be searched with other cards like Mysterious Treasure, but Ditto can't. So it's a better nest-ball target than an Inkay would be.
And you hope to evolve this Ditto immediately. Whereas, if things get very desperate, you could Hypnosis with an Inkay later on.
Inkay, it's a better Ditto. But we also see a Mimikyu on the side of Joey.
Oh, that's huge,
Which is really interesting as well. Mimikyu has that copycat attack that for 2 Psychic Energy can copy any attack on your opponent's side other than a GX move. And it is
incredible against Ultra Necrozma GX. All you need is 2 Psychic Energy, and you can copycat Photon Geyser.
Yeah.
And you don't need the Metal Energy on there, so you just discard both. And, I mean, I guess you do need a third one to get there, but... Just being able to double Malamar, attach the Psychic Energy for the turn, you get to copycat the Photon Geyser for a knockout. And if you use Distortion Door with Guillotine at any point, it's only 2 energy to do it. It's excellent. It trades for the 2 prize Ultra Necrozma GX using just this 170 HP innocent-looking Mimikyu.
One important difference between the 2 lists is actually that Brent does run damage modifiers in the form of Choice Band, so he has 2. And Joey doesn't run any. So that's really important in terms of how many energy each player can attach and what the numbers they can hit each turn. Brent just has that slight edge in that he can, I guess it's like, what, half an energy? A choice band is sort of like an extra half an energy that he can attach each turn and doesn't count as his energy attachment.
Yeah, it can make plays possible where they wouldn't be otherwise.
So just like that Mimikyu, let's say, what, 2 energy and a choice band is enough to knock out an Ultra Necrozma GX and only putting a single prize attacker in the active spot. So
that was not a good turn for Brent. Just attached energy to his Tapu Lele GX, used a Psychic Recharge onto Inkay, and that's pretty much it. And it looks like Joey's going to take full advantage with Guzma going after the one Malamar that Brent has right now. And if you're Brent here, this is looking pretty ugly, and we might see a similar situation to the first game where you look at it and go, yeah, let's play the next game.
Yeah, we'll have a 20-minute game 3. That'll be fine. A good sense of mind from Joey as well, not to just knock out the Tapu Lele GX. A lot of people will think, oh, I can just take 2 prizes off this Pokemon that's in the active position, and I don't really have to do anything. But Joey recognizes that he can take those 2 prizes anytime later in the game, but that Malamar is the thing that's really allowing Brent to potentially do something next turn. So knocking that out is pretty intelligent play from Joey on that side. But that's kind of what I expect from Joey. Only the best plays.
And now we have the second Malamar coming into play. So Joey has Energy Acceleration all ready to go. Gets the knockout with the Photon Geyser. He's got his Mimikyu powered up on the bench. So he is ready to go for just about anything Brent could throw at him. And Brent does not play the Dawnwings Necrozma GX, so he does not have that option of making the big comeback GX attack. That's really the main reason you play that card, but it has kind of fallen out of favor. It doesn't hit the same numbers as it used to. It's a very big liability against Zoroark decks. If you ever start with Dawnwings Necrozma GX and you play against a Zoroark deck, it feels terrible.
Yeah, just can't quite get there, even with the Beast Energy. You need a couple of different modifiers to be able to actually knock out a Zoroark GX.
Yeah, and it's weak to darkness, so they just ride us beating
They don't
knockout.
even need a choice band.
Yeah. All right, so can Brent pull off an attack this turn? He does play Cynthia. He has 2 Malamar in play. He's got an energy so he can retreat Tapu Lele GX, but he's still going to need some combination of Ultra Necrozma GX plus Beast Energy or a choice band. And even if you do that, Mimikyu just comes out and uses Copycat. So there's not really a great option for you to take a knockout here without getting painfully returned knockout by the Mimikyu.
But I feel like you have to, right? I mean, you can't just sit there and do nothing for the whole game.
Right.
So you kind of have to commit in that way. And you got to hope that, once I do deal with that Mimikyu afterwards, then hopefully Joey has nothing going on. But he's got a lot of things on board to work with. A couple of Malamar, Stellar Wish Jirachi.
Yeah, I mean, you could go for Giratina and try to get a 2-hit knockout, but that also doesn't seem great.
Yeah, it's definitely a very awkward situation. And I feel like Joey just pulled ahead really quickly as well. He was able to get things going, and Brent missed a couple of key turns of putting down Malamars and getting energy into play and finding Pokemon to attack with as well. I'd say, interestingly, also, just because he has no Jirachi available to him at the moment, and that seems to be actually problematic for him. I think people are relying a lot on Jirachi to find cards in their deck. And when they don't have that option, it's a bit difficult.
So we do see the Distortion Door from Giratina. Going to put damage counters. It looked like he pointed to both Malamar. No, looks like... Oh, yeah, both Malamar. So earlier in the day, it seemed like we were going to see this awesome Sky Scorching Light GX attack set up by Brent where he could take all 6 prize cards. And then later we realized that is impossible because you can't use Sky Scorching Light GX until the combined total of prize cards between both players is 6 or fewer. Mm-hmm. And if one player has not taken a prize card, that is impossible to reach.
Yeah, sadly. Sadly so.
So 6 prize knockouts, not particularly possible, but you can set up some big turns where you can wipe out multiple Malamar in the same turn. You can wipe out Jirachi and Mimikyu at the same time with Sky Scorching Light GX. But you do have to take a knockout somewhere along the way, otherwise you never get a chance to use it.
And part of that strategy is just reusing Giratina's Distortion Door ability over and over again. And so this is actually why Brent has put this Giratina into the active spot. Yeah, it didn't do any damage, but he's hoping it's going to get knocked out, and then he can use Distortion Door put those 2 more damage counters down until those Malamars are 60 away from being knocked out. So it might seem a bit odd to put the Giratina in if it's not going to do anything, but it's sort of doing something and being put into the discard pile and being able to be used later.
Yeah, this is an awkward turn for Joey, though. He does not find a switch or anything like that to allow him to get his Ultra Necrozma GX to the bench. You can only Psychic Recharge to a benched Pokemon, so he just attached for the turn, and looks like he'll have to settle for the Photon Geyser for 100 damage, not getting a knockout. And every turn he's unable to find a knockout just means more time runs off the clock, makes it less likely that we have a winner in this match.
So interestingly, that 100 damage put onto Giratina, though, means that it can't put 40 damage on itself with Shadow Impact. It has to put it elsewhere, and there are no, to knock itself out. But there's not really a great target to put it elsewhere at the moment. If you put it 40 on Malamar, well, that's just setting it up for a Sky Scorching Light knockout. 40 on Lele, well, that's just setting it up to be giving away 2 prizes much more easily. So, yeah, kind of awkward there.
Yeah, if you're Brent, I'm actually not sure what the game plan is. I mean, it seems so hard to find a path to come back here. You're not going to get a knockout on this Ultra Necrozma. Your opponent's going to be several prize cards ahead. I guess at some point you can pull off the Sky Scorching Light, but it just feels like it's going to be too late.
Yeah, I wonder if he wants to try to KO the Mimikyu first. I don't know. It's just awkward all around.
Indeed. He can Shadow Impact this turn, hit for 130 damage, at least set up this Ultra Necrozma to be knocked out on a following turn or by
Sky Scorching Light. Yeah. That's his go-to play, I think. But like you stated, you need to take a prize card somewhere to be able to use that attack.
Gotta do something.
And then, again, where do you put the 4 damage counters? But it looks like he's probably going to go for it.
Yeah, I think you just put it on top of Lele GX.
Yeah, you expect it to be knocked out anyway.
Probably, yeah. Because, putting it on Malamar seems like a disaster waiting to happen if your opponent is able to use that GX attack later on in the game. At least this forces your opponent to have Guzma.
So I see a committed attachment to the Ultra Necrozma GX and then a Shuffle Draw Supporter. Looks like what it's going to be. That Ultra Necrozma GX will get a knockout in the Giratina if it does attack with Photon Geyser.
Yeah, I can see maybe one chance for Brent to win. If he can take down this Ultra Necrozma GX, then at some point, if he can get enough Giratina out, I mean, he can put 2 more damage counters on both those Malamar and then 1 damage counter each on Jirachi and Mimikyu. Then you can set up for the big 5 prize Sky Scorching Light, or 4 prize, and close out the game that way. The problem is, I don't know if he has enough Giratina to actually pull it off.
Yeah, I think the problem is also Joey playing Escape Rope and
that
actually knocking out Giratina, which means that we can't, Brent can't be using Distortion Door if it's done in the discard pile. Really limits his options. He's decided to promote the Malamar, deciding that that's, I'm okay with this being knocked out, versus a Tapu Lele, which will give up 2 prizes.
Yep, so we see Stellar Wish, Jirachi finding that Lily, and he'll be able to retreat thanks to the escape board. And I guess we'll have to find out which Pokemon he wants to attack with here. He could Copycat, since Giratina did use Shadow Impact in the last turn, so he could do 130 damage with Mimikyu's Copycat, and looks like that's what's going to happen. You see the 70 HP Pokemon come in and knock out Malamar with a pretty big attack thanks to weakness.
Yeah, it's a really interesting choice because it does put 4 damage counters on some of his Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which actually sets up that Malamar for the Sky Scorching Light. We've been harping on about it. I just want to see it. I just want to see it now. I mean, come on. But Brent also does play 2 Giratina, so there is also 1 still available that he can discard and reuse. He can put 10 damage on the Jirachi, and that sets it up for a Sky Scorching Light knockout as well. So it seems kind of hopeless, but it also seems like there are actually still options available to Brent that, slim chances, but they are there.
This turn, Brent actually needs to do something like Guzma out the Malamar with 1 damage counter on it, just so we can take a prize card and give him a chance to pull off the big Sky Scorching Light GX. You need to take a knockout somewhere, but the problem is you don't want to knock out Mimikyu because that's one of your easy targets for the Distortion Door putting the damage counter on and then putting 6 more with Ultra Necrozma later.
Exactly.
It's really tough because if your opponent knows what you're up to, they can do things like, oh, I'll play Escape Rope and force you to bring out something else so I don't put your Giratina back in the discard pile, or Guzma, knock out something else. Just seems so unlikely for Brent to win at this point. It is possible, but it's got to be like less than 10%, and it just, is that worth playing for at this point?
You're playing for a spot in day 2 potentially. Did that come from the discard pile?
Yeah, he had just Ultra Balled that away, or
10
Viridian Forest.
Oh, yeah.
It looks, oh, okay, this works.
This is it.
Yeah, he can go after Tapu Lele GX.
This is actually amazing.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to knock out the Tapu Lele GX. He will put 4 damage counters on his own side of the board. So we also have to remember that Sky Scorching Light GX is available to Joey as well for his GX move, as he hasn't used his Dawn Wings Necrozma GX.
And you see the Choice Band coming into play there. Adding 30 damage to the Giratina's attack. That's an option Joey would not have. And now Brent is able to give himself a chance in the game. There's now...
Now, if Joey takes a prize, there are actually 4 prizes available to Brent on Joey's side of the field. So...
Yeah, what do you even do if you're Joey now?
Yeah, you can't just not take a prize.
Yeah, I mean, do you try to set up for the Sky Scorching Light on your own side?
Taking out the Malamar does mean that
yeah.
you can't get a Sky Scorching Light on Brent's side, because he obviously can't attach 2 energy in one turn if he doesn't have access to Psychic Recharge. So that's one avenue of play.
Very true.
But it sort of feels like only a matter of time until Brent can just get those 2 energy on. In fact, 2 turns if the Malamar's knocked out.
Yeah, although, I mean, if you can Guzma this turn and Guzma the next turn, you'll knock out the Malamar, go down to 2 prize cards, Guzma Tapu Lele GX, and take the win that way. So I think Joey's identified that's got to be the way he dances around this Ultra Necrozma GX attack.
So you said 10% chance that Brent wins. Have we changed it? Is it higher?
Yeah, it's a little higher now.
Okay.
Although with Jirachi and, well, he's already used his Tapu Lele GX. Not sure if he has Rescue Stretcher. He does. Seems like he'll have access to Guzma at some point. I don't think he's played very many of them yet. And he's only playing 3 Guzma, though.
Interesting.
So not guaranteed that he'll get it.
Yeah, it's kind of, sometimes people cut a Guzma from their list in favor of something like an Escape Rope because they think it has the same effect, but they can draw into it and still play it if they've played a supporter.
Yeah,
so I wonder if that's what's happened
earlier.
here. Yeah. So we see it's taking a Lily. I almost got excited that he was playing a Lily then, but...
Yeah, he's already got Guzma in hand. This is going to be a tight finish to the second game here. Now, we've been waiting to see the Sky Scorching Light GX all day. We might finally get a chance to see it.
But we also might not.
Yeah.
The chances are all the same.
Yeah. And then another problem is there's the first Guzma. Now Brent effectively cannot bench another Inkay because then Sky Scorching Light would be a 2-prize swing for Joey. So, I mean, next turn he's basically got to put down an Ultra Necrozma, attach an energy, and fingers crossed.
Yeah. He's got to hope there's no other Guzma. But, I mean, Joey has access to, 2 Jirachis as well to be able to try to find that Guzma.
Yeah. So there is the Copycat using Giratina's Shadow Impact, getting the knockout on that Malamar, taking away the option for Brent to power up his Ultra Necrozma GX this turn. If he were able to do something like, if he played a random energy switch in his deck or something, he could potentially win this turn, but otherwise he's got to just set up for the 2-turn win.
I may or may not have just double-checked the deck list just to make sure there was no energy switch there. But really clever play from Joey, seeing that this is, the way that I lose is by not doing this. So, of course, I have to do this. I have to Guzma the Malamar. And there comes a Cynthia from Brent. His deck is looking very small. Very few cards left there. Not sure if he has all the resources he needs to be able to pull this back.
I guess we'll find out. If you're Brent here, I think, you're certainly searching for Ultra Necrozma GX. You got to play that down, attach an energy to it. If you don't find it here, you've basically lost the game. But he does find Ultra Necrozma GX. I think it's somewhat important to not knock out this Mimikyu here. It would allow Joey to send out Jirachi and get multiple Stellar Wishes off and dig deeper for the game-winning Guzma. So I think if you're Brent here, you can simply retreat to one of your Giratina and pass the turn and hope you get that final turn to pull off that big GX attack.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it looks like he's going to attack there.
Okay, he
takes out the Mimikyu to put himself down to 3 prizes.
All right, now Joey's going to get 2 different Stellar Wish abilities to find the game-winning Guzma. He can go after the Tapu Lele GX on the bench or even the Ultra Necrozma at this point. Does he find the game-winning Guzma to tie up this series and force a Game 3?
Oh, my heart is like pounding. I got to see how this goes. I mean, these are both players from Oceania, so I'm a lot invested in both of them doing well, but looks like we've got a Rescue Stretcher.
Oh, he looked through his deck. He found Guzma in there, so he can Rescue Stretcher for Tapu Lele GX. Guzma out one of those Pokemon GX and Photon Geyser for the win.
Yeah, wow.
And we're going to go to a Game 3.
And not much time left, only 10 minutes, so that's a little bit awkward for both players. He didn't attack with Sky Scorching Light, so, you know, I can dream. There's always tomorrow, right?
The darkest timeline. We might have a tie, and we didn't see Sky Scorching Light GX.
Yeah, as we discussed earlier, this is really a win or out kind of situation for these players. I mean, there are prizes awarded to the players who make it to the top 64, and you know, obviously 32 of those players don't progress to day 2, but all players want another chance to keep playing and just play in those 5 rounds tomorrow, and then hopefully in the top 8, top 4, and the final. But a tie here will actually effectively rule out these players from being able to do that. They do have to win. You know, one of them has to win in 8 minutes and 30 seconds, which is quite difficult, but it can be done. You know, if your opponent doesn't draw the best cards, especially if you're disrupting them with something like Marshadow GX. Yeah.
It's like, can we just both agree to play with Pokemon GX this game?
So we can take a quick 6 prizes.
All right. Handshake and game number 3 underway of our final Swiss round here from the first day of the Oceania International Championships. Brent starting off with that Jirachi and is able to Stellar Wish into the Cynthia.
Oh, which is very fortunate because he had no other supporters.
Oh, yeah, not
draw
bad.
supporters, that is.
Discards Giratina, and it looks like Choice Band as well. So he's off to a pretty solid start.
Yeah, getting rid of that Giratina into the discard pile as well is really fortunate because it means he can use that Distortion Door. I mean, you know, sometimes the one damage counter on 2 Pokemon isn't so relevant, but it's always nice to be able to use it just in case. And as we saw later, you know, when you have Sky Scorching Light as an option, yeah, it's always nice to be able to use.
And this is where Brent might regret not playing that Marshadow in his deck with Let Loose. This is the kind of situation where you would love to just slam down Marshadow and be like, look, all you have is Inkay. And if you don't draw anything else...
hope that you draw nothing. Yeah.
That's one way to win a game in less than 10 minutes.
I mean, that's my strategy in all matchups. Just try to disrupt my opponent and recognize that they're probably better than I am. So here we go, Cynthia, 6 cards. I mean, what else could you ask for from this start? Maybe an energy attachment to an Ultra Necrozma. I think having 3 Inkays is pretty optimal. Maybe finding an escape board. You know, your opponent doesn't play Field Blower, so it's not really a risk to play that down onto Jirachi.
It's like he does have Mysterious Treasure plus Psychic Energy in hand, so he could find Ultra Necrozma, attach an energy. Could also just discard the Psychic Energy. Looks like he's just going to pass, though. Going to hold on to his hand.
Maybe recognizing that he might want to find a Malamar, or maybe he doesn't know that his opponent doesn't play Marshadow.
Yeah, although he did see Judge in the last game.
But if your opponent's playing Judge on turn 1, you know, they've got bigger issues going on, I think.
Sure. So Ultra Ball from Joey does get a Psychic Energy in the discard pile along with that Dawnwings Necrozma GX. And he'll probably find himself, looks like Jirachi, so he can start setting up. Both these players are probably going to have to pick up the pace a little bit. We're going to need to see some quick turns, some quick knockouts if they want any hopes of finishing the match. And Joey is playing that escape rope. It's helping out quite a bit to get that Jirachi in the active spot and a big turn 1 Lily for 6 cards.
Not seeing another Inkay.
Hasn't even used Stellar Wish yet.
They could get the Nest Ball or an Ultra Ball. But still, I'm only seeing 1 Inkay and there's a Mysterious Treasure. Excellent.
That'll do it.
Otherwise, Brent could have just targeted down that Inkay and possibly run away with the game.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to discard Giratina with Mysterious Treasure. Usually an easy discard since you can always get it back.
That or Viridian Forest, apparently.
Yeah.
So there we go, 2nd Inkay. And this is really the optimal starts from both players. This is how the Malamar decks are typically run, whether it's the version with Necrozma GX or the version with, sometimes with spread kind of cards like Tapu Koko, or with the Ultra Necrozma GX. Your turn one is always, let's just find as many Inkay as we can so we can, Psychic Recharge as much as we can on turn two.
So we do see Joey being a bit more aggressive, using that Giratina Distortion Door immediately so he can put an energy on it and try to attack. I think he recognizes, I can't afford to miss an attack on my second turn.
It's not something I'm used to seeing, a metal energy on a Giratina, but you have to change your game plan a little bit sometimes and just take the knockouts that you can, especially when you're in these positions when there's less than 5 minutes remaining in the match that is going to decide whether you make it to the second day of an international championships or not.
Yeah, great second turn here from Brent so far. Plays an Ultra Mole and a Mysterious Treasure, is able to discard multiple Psychic Energy, get 2 Malamar out, and if things go correctly, he should be able to pull off an attack this turn.
Yeah, he does still need a few pieces, though, such as an attacker and also energy in the discard pile. I don't think there are too many. There might be one.
I think it's either 1 or 2.
Yeah. Well, there's a Nest Ball and there's a Beast Energy, so that's certainly one way to get there, but is there a way to retreat the Inkay from the active position?
Right, that's the question.
Oh, there's a switch, sort of mocking Brent at the bottom.
Skateboard would do it. Switch would do it. Can he find any of those, though? Looks like just the Nest Ball for Ultra Necrozma. He does have the Beast Energy in hand, and there's the skateboard. Okay,
nice.
So going to get a turn 2 knockout with this Ultra Necrozma GX. That's exactly what he needed. Also gets Giratina back.
And that's one way to apply pressure in this match where you just have to take 6 quick knockouts. And there's one. Can he take 5 more is the question. I mean, it's not unrealistic, I don't think, in this sort of Malamar deck set up to just continuously recycle attackers just take prizes quite quickly. Ordinarily you can put 1 energy on per turn, but when you have Psychic Recharge...
Oh, Mimikyu coming in for Joey. If he's able to get
very big.
Yeah, if he's able to get double Malamar, he'll still need a switch, which he does not play. Or he does play 1 switch. He'll be able to power up Copycat for the knockout on the Ultra Necrozma, copying its Photon Geyser attack.
Yeah, with no Jirachi Stellar Wish ability though, and playing a Cynthia, it's looking like he's going to have to draw very optimally. To get that.
If there were any time to do it, it would be right now.
Yes.
So 6 important cards for Joey. Does find a Malamar. If he can find a switch to go with it.
A lot of good things, but I don't think the things that he needed that turn.
Not quite there. Does find Viridian Forest. He could have gotten a Psychic Energy with that, but looks like he's going to fall just a little bit short. And now comes the question of how do you approach this turn? Is this time for the Desperation Hypnosis?
I wouldn't be disappointed.
I mean, it might be what he has to do. Got to think if Brent goes ahead 2 prizes, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. There's the Psychic Energy. Or is it going to go else? Or is he going to attach it?
Look, I know you're rooting for Hypnosis, but I'm... Actually, you never know right now.
All right. The moment of truth. Where does the Psychic Energy go?
This is a bizarrely relevant decision.
Does it go on the Mimikyu?
This shouldn't be as exciting as it is. There we go.
Oh,
okay.
Come on.
Ends up on the Mimikyu.
No, not yet. He's still got his hand on it. Oh, takes it back.
Because we have time for this in this matchup with 1 minute and 10 seconds left.
Just got to analyze all the options. Oh, no. One more check. Where will the Psychic Energy end up? Nobody knows.
It's like a whodunit.
Oh, okay. It's going to the Inkay. Here we go. Oh, it's almost there.
Oh, the suspense is killing me, honestly.
Oh, he did
it. Left.
All right, here we go.
Hypnosis.
All right, this is a big flip, and it is...
Oh, no, never mind. Stays awake.
So much for that. We see Brent discarding the Nest Ball to the Viridian Forest, finding a Psychic Energy, and His turn's probably going to be a bit shorter.
I do think so. No deliberating over energies.
Yep,
And there we
just
go.
a
Takes a
quick
prize very quickly.
attachment, psychic recharge, knockout. Please, please give me more turns so I can win this game.
Yeah, like we said, the players aren't really privy to what the clock situation is and how much time is left. But as you said, I think, who knows, yesterday, today, I don't know what time it is anymore. But you did say that, players typically have this internal body clock. They know how long the games have been going for. They know that this is very near the end of the round and that, things need to happen.
Yeah, speaking of that, the clock has hit all zeros, and that means we are out of time in this round. We will have 3 additional turns to decide a winner if possible. Looks like Joey will be turn 0, then his opponent will get turns 1 and 3. And we're just going to see the copycat using Photon Geyser for 180 damage, which is a bit short, but can set up things like Distortion Door and Sky Scorching Light. We only got 120 damage on there. It should be much more than that.
Yeah. 160, 180? Yeah, for sure.
He actually plays Acerola.
So it didn't matter.
Picks up his Ultra Necrozma GX. Wow. Most Malamar decks are not playing Acerola.
Yeah, people typically don't have time, sort of the space to fit that card for one, but also typically wouldn't decide to play it because they just think that they're just going to be trading 2 prizes with their opponent, dealing lots of damage, expecting lots of mirror matches. There's a knockout.
There's the Shadow Impact for the knockout. Going down to 3 prize cards.
Brent, the speed with which Brent was playing then makes me think that perhaps, not sure if time was
maybe our timer is not accurate.
They might have had a time extension. It looks like Joey's realizing that no one can resolve the game.
He's going to double Psychic Recharge to the Malamar. And I believe time has been called at this point. You can see Joey say, okay, this doesn't matter, I pass.
Yeah. And I do think that a tie here, though, means that both players are probably locked in for the top 64, so they still will walk away from this match with championship points and hopefully some prizes, but of course there will be that disappointment of not making to the second day, to day 32. Day 2, the top 32.
Is that what it feels like, day 32?
Yeah, it feels like day 32. I can't even complain. I don't have this jet lag, but it's
still a long day.
Yeah. But credit to both players, though. They got to the point where they could have made it to the